Thanks everybody for joining this month's virtual meetup. My name is Ryan Parker, and I'm the production and workforce manager at Film Mississippi. For those of you I've not had the privilege of meeting yet, if you follow us on social media, you know that we try to do regular meetups. 1 month will be in person across the regions, across the state in different regions, and the other months we are trying to do these virtual meetups for people who can't be with us in person, and maybe they're working or they're on set or whatever it is. We want to create opportunities for our crew and also our acting community for opportunities to learn more, to network virtually or in person. And so we hosted a similar event as this 2 months ago with producer Effie Brown about best practices, putting your best foot forward for crew. And we knew that we wanted to create something like that for our acting community and other folks in the industry. And so that's what we're doing today. And we're so lucky and thankful to have Matthew Morgan of Morgan Casting and Gabe Smith with us, for today's conversation. I'm going to let you guys do a brief introduction of yourself and before we dive into questions.
Not yet. Go, Matthew.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all you do, Mississippi Film Office. My name is Matthew Morgan. I'm a native of Canton, Mississippi. I was born in Macomb and proud to call Mississippi home. I have worked as a casting director for over 20 years, a member of CSA in the United States and CDC in Canada. I sort of work in many different places, but Mississippi is home and the place in which I work the most. And I certainly love it, and I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I've had there. Some of the best ones of my career have come out of Mississippi. So I'm excited to, have some fun today and hopefully share some great information with you that may help you along the path to your suggestions on a job, making sure you're noticed and also memorable, and that you get called in time and time again.
Well, thank you everybody for having me here. My name's Gabe Smith. I created the Facebook group Filming in Mississippi probably 11, 12 years ago. And I created it as a site to discuss things that were being filmed in Mississippi. It was before I even got into the film industry. Now it's a place for crew and actors, whether you were casting something that Matthew is the casting director on, or as I like to call them, the community theater directors of filming here in Mississippi. They come there and cast as well. And hopefully with today's discussion, we can let you know that whether you are auditioning or want to be part of a large budget show or a no budget show, all the same things apply. Now, professionally, I'm a paramedic. I've worked 20 plus years as an EMT or paramedic in the state of Mississippi. And even though I live in Slidell now, I still have a passion for the state of Mississippi. And I work full-time as a set medic behind the scenes on a lot of shows that y'all know, including shows like Women of the Movement and The Card Counter that were shot there in Mississippi over the last few years.
That's great. Thanks. For each of you, and in whatever order you want to go, what was your first job in the industry, whether it was like a PA, paying or otherwise? What was your first experience in the industry?
Mine was working as a set medic, and I'm in one of those few rare crew positions where you never work as a PA, or you don't have to. But I worked as a set medic for 2 days on a movie shot in the Jackson metropolitan area called 1 Mile to You, or 1 Mile from You. It was 1 mile, it was a distance, and there was exercise involved. And I worked on that, and I thought it was the greatest experience of my life. And that is what hooked me into the film production industry.
For me, my very first experience was working on Joel Schumacher's A Time to Kill, which shot in my hometown of Canton, Mississippi. It starred Matthew McConaughey, Sandra Bullock, Samuel L. Jackson, many other great actors. I started off as an extra and then worked my way into a PA, and then I was a stand-in for one of the actors. I worked alongside behind the scenes actress, Oscar winner Octavia Spencer, and Mississippi director Tate Taylor. And that really got me sort of excited and planted the bug, my passion and love for being part of the filmmaking process. my dream at that time was to be an actor, to be in front of the camera. And flash forward to a couple decades later, I end up working on a film in Natchez, Mississippi called Ma, where I was one of the main casting directors, handled the extras casting. Octavia Spencer was the lead and Tate Taylor was the director. So we had all sort of, come full circle from that wonderful experience in Canton, Mississippi many years ago. So that's what got me passionate about film and filmmaking.
I like how you point out that kind of relationality of the industry, which we're talking today about professionalism, but so much of this is about relationships. Yeah. And your professionalism can help build those and strengthen those relationships. It's also a really tough industry to be in. It's really hard to make a film, as most everybody on this call knows. When did you realize, or was there a point when you realized, like, not only do I want to do this, but I can do this as a career, or I want to like put in the effort that it's going to take to make this a career, not just something that, oh, this was like a fun thing to do?
You go, Matt.
I studied international business and foreign languages. Those are my degrees, French and Spanish, but my passion was to be an actor. And I took a risk. I got a very great job when I graduated from Mississippi State. FedEx hired me because I could speak French. I got a job in Canada. And I did that for several months and I just didn't love it. It wasn't my cup of tea. And I started auditioning on the side. I signed up with a talent agency. And eventually I quit my very nice paying job with lots of benefits. And I took the risk. I wanted to be an actor and I bartended and served and struggled. And eventually a casting director hired me who loved me. She couldn't believe I was from Mississippi. I worked in Toronto as her assistant and really learned the ropes in the business. And over time, I opened up my own business and worked successfully in Canada for about a decade. But I realized I could do this full time and work in Mississippi in about 2013 with As I Lay Dying, which was a film James Franco directed that also shot in Canton. I saw the industry really sort of booming on a more regular basis. And I realized I could do what I do back at home and thrive and survive and work in Mississippi, which has been my dream all along, to be able to work in the place I love most and survive. So I realized, just through, I think, all the hard work that the film office did and all the wonderful opportunities of work coming through, that you can make it. And I think one smart thing I did was I diversified myself. Some casting directors only do film, which is respected, but I like to still do commercials, to still do music videos, to still do print. I made sure that I didn't cut off any market because one can be really slow and the other can pick up and be busy. So that worked for me. And that's sort of, my story in a nutshell of how I started doing this full time.
As for me, I started off, I was still working full time on the ambulance, and there's a medic from the Jackson area. His name is Brian Seal. He's worked on a lot of the projects that Matthew has mentioned. He got me into this, and I'd work on something here and there, a commercial here or day playing here. And I really realized how much I enjoyed it, and I really thought it was my calling. And so in March of 18, I got off the ambulance full time. And, if you're going to pursue a dream, sometimes you have to take risk. And that was the scariest day professionally when I turned in my 2 weeks notice, but everybody wished me the best of luck. They supported me. Like I said, that was March of 18. I've still had to supplement it sometimes by working on the ambulance, but since then, I think I'm around 70 credits, and I've worked on small little short films, commercials, movies, reality television, scripted television, even worked on dating reality. And I hope baby Jesus forgives me for doing that. But with each show, it became a learning experience. Because I'm just sitting there all day. I'm not doing anything. If my job goes good, I've done nothing. But I'm paying attention to what's going on. I'm noticing how the cast is, noticing how the crew is, and I'm picking up things by how they're acting, and picking up, as you said, earlier when we were talking, good practices to practice not only on set but just in life in general. And I try to, with like the Facebook group, I try to pass on those things to people who are trying to start out in the industry, because Matthew is very familiar with the page. He sees a lot of stuff on there, and we both realize, along with the other administrators, that people getting into this industry are making a lot of missteps, and hopefully we can help them not make those and make it a little bit easier for them. You're muted, Ryan.
Yeah, sorry. I love that. I'm so glad you said that, and I do want to jump into some of those best practices. That's a great segue. Before we do that, I want to just call out something that I've kind of taken from what you both said, a bit about being open to whatever genre or medium, that you're working as, commercial or feature or whatever, but also that kind of adaptability, Gabe, where you were lucky to have a career and a job that worked on a film set, right? But also allowed you to do some work when film work may be slow, for example. So I know that's probably something y'all want to talk about too, in terms of a best practice about having that. It's nothing wrong with saying like a backup or like a fail-safe, or what do you do when work is slow. So I'm thankful that you guys kind of touched on that. I don't know if you have anything to say quickly about that, but yeah.
If you're starting in this, whether it's crew or in front of the camera, don't quit your day job. Yeah, don't quit your day job until, Matthew mentioned networking. It's, now, you would hustle and hustle and hustle and hustle. And I'm sure it was the same thing for Matthew. He was going after every, client he could possibly get. And now here it is years later, it's the same way with me trying to find these jobs. Now people are calling us because of the networking and the relationships we have made. So don't quit what you're doing exactly until you know this is what you want to do. And then when you're ready to truly pursue that dream and know you can do it, I think that's a big thing right there.
And I would like to add, I have many friends who are in the film industry who live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. Our work comes in waves. Sometimes everything hits at once, and it's really smart to sort of save for a rainy day, to budget, to tuck away, to allow for the downtime and the slow time. If you don't have the luxury of a second job or an alt career or filler work, you've really got to do a good job, in my opinion, of budgeting and not overspending when everything comes in, which is hard to do. You have to really train yourself, just to have a little bit of control and money and time management. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go, Matthew, a couple questions for you, then Gabe, a couple for you, and then we'll come back with some kind of questions for both of you. Cool. Matthew, I said 3 here, but if you have more, obviously feel free. What are 3 rookie mistakes you see aspiring actors commit time and time again when they're kind of trying to get into the industry?
Getting into the industry, you've only got one chance to really make a first great impression. And as casting directors, we often are introduced to you when you submit yourself to a job. That's how we see who you are. We check out your headshot. We check out your resume, your reel or materials. So when you do submit to a project, you want it to be perfect, polished, to follow all the instructions given. For me as a casting director, I love actors who can take direction well. And most people, when they hear that statement, they think I mean on set from a director, which is true. But I also love actors who can take written directions well, AKA following instructions. It's really the first sort of test that you have to pass in order to get to the next level, which is, will I give you the audition? Will I, sort of put you into serious consideration? So make sure you read the instructions, make sure you follow everything, to the very best of your ability, so you make that first great impression. So that's one of the major mistakes that actors will do. In tying this question to sort of suggesting for a job, as a casting director, when I audition actors for a role, I want to make sure it's fair to everyone, that I'm not auditioning too many people that actors aren't getting the part, and it's also more work for me. So I like to keep the odds fair, and I only have so many slots that I allocate per character. I won't share that magic number with you because it changes with each job and catering it to my clients. But if you suggest yourself, only suggest yourself one way, because sometimes I'm going through all the suggestions that come through the agents. My casting associate is going through all the suggestions that come through Actors Access, and my assistant may be going through the emailed suggestions. And if you've suggested in all three possible ways, then we could all grab you. And in the haste of prepping a job, we don't always marry our choices. So you got 3 auditions now, and you've taken up 2 slots for someone else who could have had that opportunity. So make sure, if you're represented by an agent, reach out to your agent and say, please suggest me to Morgan Casting. That's always our preference, to deal with your representative, your agent or your manager. If you don't have an agent, my second way that I love to get your suggestion is through Actors Access. And many actors sort of whine and, I don't have an Actors Access account. And the reason that I love it is because all of the suggestions are in the same software. And casting directors across North America use it and love it. So I highly recommend that you just get yourself an Actors Access account. If you don't know what that is, it's where you can sign up on their site and you can see all the work coming through. I'm a real advocate for it. There's a fee to do that for the year, but I think it's well worth the investment. So this way, when actors email me, and that's reserved for people who don't have an agent, who don't have an Actors Access account, and I find some great people through email, but it's extra work for us. We have the email back and forth versus the automated, here are your sides, here are your instructions. I can send you everything to everyone in a click of a finger, in one swoop, through that software. And it works for the agents and the actors on Actors Access all the same. But for the emailed suggestions, there's the attaching of sides and the downloading of videos and the uploading of videos. It's a lot more work, and it costs me more money hiring my staff to do that. So my preference is that, if you're serious about being an actor, you get yourself a great agent, or if you don't have an agent or aren't ready for one yet, you get yourself an Actors Access account. Trust me, all the casting directors in the Southeast love it. They will, call you in, I think, more easily when you're in that system, just because the email is extra work. But the email saves me. I do love it as well. Every now and then I'm casting real people in Mississippi or unrepresented actors who are fantastic in the Jackson area. I need, things that you can't find through an agency, a girls softball team, things like that, especially for commercial casting. So just to tie back in, I went off on a little tangent there, make sure that you just suggest under one method, that you follow the instructions given. And if you can get your audition in early, I think it is advantageous to you as an actor. We're human as casting directors. We have a lot of work when we land a film. We're excited. We put our breakdown out. The suggestions start rolling in. The first early tapes come in. I'm in good spirits. I'm excited to watch all those videos. I'm not so tired. I'm not so exhausted. There's not a race to the finish line, versus don't hang on to your audition or wait to the last minute, because then it's coming in with hundreds of other people who've done the same thing. And although I will watch your audition 100%, I've already seen some folks and I've fallen in love with them. They've been sitting there, there's videos, so you're going to have to beat who I've already connected with. So, just to say it kind of off the cuff, if you can get your audition in sooner than later, I think your odds are a little bit better, still allowing yourself, of course, time to do a good job. And those are 3 of my biggest tips, I think, for actors, whether they're seasoned or just starting. It's good to be reminded of that,
Yeah. I was going to ask you about those pieces of advice, but you've anticipated that. Do you see, you're seeing any, and I want to summarize for our listeners too, because, and if I can say it concisely, and feel free to, clarify, but be professional, right? Be defined in your application, what you're submitting yourself for, and be early in the process if you can, right? Any other mistakes that stand out to you outside of that, where people maybe wait till the last minute, or they are too broad, or unprofessional? Anything else that kind of has stuck out to you in the past, maybe?
You know, some mistakes I see often are actors auditioning for other roles that they see on the breakdown. I'll ask them to read for Principal John, and this man thinks he also looks like, the farmer. He could be good for that role. So, it's not your job to interpret my creative vision. That I have to do that for my clients. So if you're given the opportunity to audition for a character, trust us, even if what you see on the breakdown feels very different from what you are, you may not be privy to some last minute changes, a change in spec of diversity, the gender has changed. Just trust us. I would never reach out and audition to you and waste your time. So, sometimes actors, I will ask them to read the part 2 times or 3 times, and I'll have actors that'll give me just one read. And I always wonder, do you think that's all you need? I asked for 2 or 3 reads for good reason, just to see your range as a performer, to see how you can take direction and mix it up and show me some range. So make sure that you do that, you follow the instructions. And if I do ask for 3 reads, don't give me 6 and let me pick my best 3, right? Yeah. So, really following those instructions, I think, is just the biggest key. A really great impression. Those are some of the biggest mistakes that actors will make, that I could find really irksome. Yeah. Yeah.
You used the A word earlier, agent, which
Yeah.
is always feels like a daunting relationship to people maybe new to the industry and aspiring. And you talked about actors access and what that is, and thank you for that. I think that's very helpful. Any thoughts on how to pursue that relationship as a new actor, especially if folks are in Mississippi and they're not in LA or New York, if you
Sure.
will? Yeah.
There's only so much you can do on your own. And you can do a lot on your own. You can research all the casting directors, all the production companies, the Mississippi, your database that you have, your Real Scout it's a great resource for me for finding clients. It's a great way for actors to sort of see some of the potential clients in the state, to find the agents in the state. So, but there's only so much you have access to. An agent has access to all the work that's released on, let's say, Breakdown Services. That's the main sort of company that most casting directors use to post their breakdowns. And a breakdown is a breakdown of the job, where it's shooting, how much it pays, what it is, a film, a commercial, etc. So those breakdowns are gold. If you're looking for an agent, the very first question you should ask them is, hey, do you get all the breakdowns that come out? And that costs the agents, and they have to be approved. So I think, it's really great if you have an agency that already has access to all that, because it's going to open up doors for you. They're getting the jobs from all the CDs in Mississippi, in the Southeast, in the United States. They have access to national work when it's released. So, that's sort of my best advice if you're looking for an agent, because they can do so much more for you than you can do for yourself. And you can also go to SAG's website. SAG-AFTRA has a listing of all the sort of agencies in the region that they recommend, that are registered with them.
And in the process, I mean, things change. The industry always changes its influx and protocols and processes. I mean, is it still as simple as someone submitting, headshots and reels and resumes to those agencies that they can find in those spaces that you've just mentioned?
It's exactly that. Each agency works a bit differently. You got to do your good old fashioned research, go to their site, ask another actor who's repped by that agent. As actors, you are each other's best resource. If you're on set, if you're hanging out in extras holding, start chatting, find out, ask, hey, who are you repped by? Do you like them? Are they working hard for you? Are you getting lots of auditions, etc.? And, once you find a couple of agents and you look at their roster, and sort of, I think you want to make sure that there aren't 5 or 6 people that look just like you, because then you're going to be competing within your own agency, within that spec that you fit into. So do your research, and most agents will have a section on their website explaining how to suggest, send it to this email, send us these materials, and so on and so forth. So make sure you're, even when you're suggesting on my jobs, before you suggest, have a quick peek, make sure your resume is updated, your contact info is correct, your headshot looks current to what you currently look like. And if you have a clean shaven face, guys, in the headshot, and your full beard right now, and you don't have a photo to indicate it, make sure you leave a little note in the submission notes. Currently with beard, can trim for role, etc. Things like that are important so that we're not surprised when we see you, right?
Yeah. Who is this? Yeah. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah.
Gabe, you've been active, as you said, you've been active on social media and creating and moderating the Filming in Mississippi Facebook community. When did that start for you? Or maybe more importantly, why did that start for you?
I can't remember exactly when it started, but the reason why was, shows were coming to Mississippi, not big major shows at the time, but I wanted to create a place where people could come and find out what was being filmed. Now, at that time, I didn't know about casting directors. I didn't know about this. I really didn't even know about PAs. I mean, I didn't know anything. I just wanted to say, hey, this is something that the state of Mississippi has to offer. And then just by happen chance, I got into the industry, and it's gone from just being, hey, this is filming or commercials filming. It's now become an actor database, creator database, crew database as well. I got in it because I wanted to show something positive about Mississippi. And I'll be honest with you, it's become a lot more than myself or anybody involved with that page could have ever imagined.
That's great. I want to, before I jump to your, mistakes that you've seen over the years and advice, I just want to call out 2 things that you've said in different ways that I think are very helpful. Matthew, you talked about actors being each other's best resource, which haven't really heard before, because you think about it being combative and it's competitive, right? And then also, and being in conversation with your fellow actors while you're on set. Gabe, you said something similar earlier about being attentive while you're on set. We know that there's a lot of downtime in production, and if you're not actively doing anything, there's still opportunities for networking and conversation. I just want to call that out, or being attentive to what's happening around you, especially if you're PA or new, finding ways that maybe you'll be able to help within reason or whatever. But just that attentiveness and communication, I think, is super important. All right, Gabe, mistakes that you see in your world that just kind of drive you nuts, or faux pas,
I don't want to sound like an old man yelling at the clouds, but what I see over and over and over again is somebody posting a picture, a headshot, whatever it is, that's fine. But hi, I'm John Doe, and I'm an actor in the area. And if you want me in your production, reach out to me. That's not how this works. I mean, there are casting directors and agents who do look at that page, but they're not coming to you. So that to me, rule number 1 is sit back and be attentive and look at the casting calls. Whenever there is something out there, because most people are just going to ignore that. They're not even going to pay attention to you after that. Second, like Matthew said, it's the instructions. I can't tell you how many casting calls I have seen where it gives all the details. I mean, this is what the role is. This is what the pay is. This is what we're looking for. And in the comments littered throughout, it says, DM me with more information. What information is there? All of the information is contained on your computer screen right there. And there's an email address. I see that all the time, and that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves. Another negative I see, and this will lead into something else, is people ranting because, and this goes for crew and for actors as well. Well, you know what? I applied for this, but they didn't let me know if I was even considered. Well, look, I don't know how many recommendations or submissions Matthew is getting. I don't know how many submissions this person is getting, but I don't need to know that. All I need to know is if they don't call me, that just means I didn't get it. They don't have the time or the bandwidth to reach out to everybody who applied or submitted for something and say, hey, sorry, but after consideration, you're not going to make it. And that's one of the most difficult things about being in this industry, I believe, and it's not something that's going to change, and you have to have a little tough skin to deal with it. Is if you're not going to get something, you're not going to hear that you didn't get it. You're just going to come to the realization that somebody else got what you want. But also, when people are saying that, you're putting this out on social media, and they're not necessarily going to your page, but they're seeing my page and the other Southern actor pages that are out there. And these casting directors and these agents are seeing what you're putting out there. And if they submit, I mean, Matthew's still going to watch it, or one of these agents are still going to watch what you're putting out there. But you've got to ask yourself, in the back of their mind, are they saying, you know what, this person has a very negative attitude, and I don't know if I necessarily want to be associated with them. And that's why, and it goes not just with this job, but just anything. Your social media presence, people pay attention to that. That's why I try to be positive on my page, or our page, but at the same time, I will come out and say, no, don't do this. This isn't how this works. And then one other major mistake I see with the acting community, and once again, I'm not an actor. Yeah, I've submitted for a couple of things, but I'm not an actor. And some people will say, well, you don't know, where we're coming from. I don't have to know where you're coming from. It's about being willing to not be selective. Matthew mentioned people being in background holding. Okay, there are some people who are like, I don't want to do background work. I don't want to be a background actor. Well, guess what? Some of the biggest stars that are out there in our history started off as BG. And if you're sitting there, if you've never been on anything before, it's a great place to get experience, because once again, you were sitting around, and you can either sit there and be bored, or you can sit there and learn. You can pay attention. You can talk to, like here in the New Orleans area, we have career background artists who this is what their livelihood is now, and they're willing to talk to people. If you will just listen to what people are saying who have that experience, they're the only thing limiting you at that point is you yourself. You can go as far as you want to if you're willing to open up your eyes and ears and not say anything.
Before we go into some more recommendations from you, Gabe, Matthew, I see you nodding to a lot of what he's saying. Anything you want to add and along those lines?
I thank you so much, Gabe, first for all you do. I'm so grateful. And that comment really struck a chord with me. When I post my projects on social media, they are oftentimes posting from either Morgan Casting's Facebook, which I created, or my personal Facebook, which I created. So under my post, I get a ping for every comment. I may not comment, I may not engage with you, but I see them all. So I'm puzzled oftentimes by the negativity that comes through, which is just human nature. It's part of the business. People whining, people complaining about the rates, which are not set by casting. We fight as hard as we can to get the best rates for extras, the best rates for actors, because the higher the rates, the easier it is for me to get my job done. So we're on your side. We're working for you. And when I see the negativity or the nastiness or the cattiness, it just makes me not want to work with you. As simple as that. No matter how talented you are, no matter how perfect you may be in terms of the look for the part. So I just, want to sort of encourage people to take a moment before you just let it out, to think about the repercussions of that, because your words really can set an impression for who you are. And I like working with positive, nice people. As simple as that.
Gabe, well, you started to give some, but advice for folks looking to get on or who are on set, based on some of the experiences that you've had and your work in this space.
It's you know, I so I was in a position as a set medic that the only advice I was given was a pat on the back and said, "Don't let anybody die." So I'm going in absolutely blind. Well, that first time that you go in on set, if you don't have a support group, is just to go in there and just watch and learn. Don't be afraid to ask a question, but watch. And if you have a question about something, what I would do is, if there's not somebody who can answer those questions for you right then and there, we all have phones. Make a list of these. Hey, why did they do this, or why are we doing that? And then come back to something like my page or an actor friend or somebody in the business, and say, look, I was background on this, or I was working as a PA on this, or whatever the situation may be, and ask the questions. Now, sometimes it's not appropriate to ask questions at certain times, but it's okay to ask those eventually. Don't be afraid to make a list. Don't be afraid to say you don't know as well. That's a huge thing. I'd been in the industry full time for 3 or 4 years, and I came up with a situation with a position that I'm like, I've never ever heard about this. So I went to somebody I trusted and I say, what is this? And they were able to say, oh, well, this is what it is. This is why you haven't seen it. It's not usually used here. Just like I said, pay attention, make that list of questions that you have. If you keep going in blind and you're not learning something every time that you go on set, or every time that you submit something, Matthew puts out a casting notice, learn something from each time that you submit. Hey, is there a better camera angle for this? Also, with those submissions, like he said, don't submit 6 things when he's asking for 3, but it's okay to film 6 things so you can figure out what the best practices for your auditions are. Go ahead. Yeah. And I mean, that's, if you're shy, it's okay. If you're somebody who gets their voice out there, it's okay. But when you're on set, just, you have to be even keel. Sit there, pay attention. Don't be afraid to learn. Keep being positive. I don't think I think I have personally, like on the website, I've blocked personally, I think 5 total people in the entire time that the site has been up. And it was just because it was complete negativity, or it's like, hey, be polite. No, we can be whatever we want to be. You're going to get a lot further in this business when you're polite, when you show that you are trustworthy, when you're going to follow the instructions, whether written or verbal. And if you have a question about either, just go ahead and ask. But don't come into this saying, look at me, I'm this guy. You deserve, you should have me on your show because you're going to be the lucky one. Just, you're not going to use those manners in church. You're not going to use those manners at work. Don't use them in this industry.
There's a couple things, at the risk of being repetitive. We've talked a lot about, especially you, Gabe, given your work, social media and the role it's increasingly playing in spreading information about opportunities, putting yourself out there. I just want to be intentional about this question. Like, any other thoughts about using social media, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, to put yourself out there or to get information. Best practices, don't do this, do that. Like anything else there, I think we've insinuated and directly addressed some, but just want to name this in case there's more.
I think what was good 15 years ago is not necessarily good now.
Okay.
You can't stick to the same old, same old. It's be positive, be polite, be punctual, ask questions, not to be snarky, but just ask questions because you want to learn. Don't have these numerous social media posts in these groups and then on your own personal social media going something that's showing a total opposite of you, because word, like Matthew said, if he has a negative person, he might, even if they're the look, he might not want them because he doesn't, he doesn't want to pass on a recommendation of somebody that will become a headache for that client, because not only does that look bad on the client, it looks bad on Matthew or the agent or anybody else as well. So what used to work doesn't work now. Just, you know, put out positivity, don't be two-faced, and just go from there.
Matthew, anything else? Or I also have kind of maybe a specific question. I don't want this to be, if it's an over the line question, you just let me know and we can move on. But I wonder, in terms of social media, for folks who are, you've already talked about folks responding to comments and you're aware of those, you see those, you may not engage.
Yeah.
To what extent if you're going down the road with a potential actor for a role, are you kind of looking at their social media presence to say, who is this person? Are they, you know what I mean with that question?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It is sometimes, it's not something that I proactively check often, but particularly in the world of commercial advertising, if you're representing a brand, I've had ad agencies, producers who will, do background checks on actors. They'll want to, see if you have a record or if you're involved in some activities that they don't think would be great for their brand. So, my best recommendation to any actor who wants to have a social media account, be it a Facebook account, especially Instagram, TikTok, is to have a separate account for you as the actor and make that account accessible to everyone. You can have your personal account private where someone has to request you. But, I think as a performer, as an actor, you want fans, you want following. So, for me, I won't accept people who have private accounts, but I do try to follow everyone who follows me on Morgan Casting or my personal. I try to follow you back. I think it's just good human etiquette, right?
Yeah.
I want to see what you're up to, and vice versa. And, I don't take that for granted. So that's sort of my biggest piece of advice, is to make sure, I think it's sort of a good way as an actor to log what you're doing. Had a great audition today. Check out my clip from this, you can sort of keep track of all the great things that you've done, create a little momentum, a little hype for yourself. Versus on your personal page, you may have some stuff that we shouldn't see, right?
Yeah.
And years back, I had to do a cleaning up of my Facebook, a swiping of photos, that I just thought, would a client want to see this, and so, a little bit of house cleaning, especially in an industry where we have downtime. That's a great time to work on your resume, clean up your social media account, delete some things you may not need to, work on your reel, take advantage of the slow time.
Yep.
Because, I know, like, working in Mississippi, sometimes I have 3 or 4 films that'll hit at once and I'm thinking, I can't do anything. I need reminder to eat lunch. I put that in my calendar. So, and try to do all the things that you thought you just can't do when you have those big breaks. And, that's something that I've started training myself to do, because I like being busy. I'm not a sit still, relax, chill kind of person. I love to do and get stuff done. So I clean up my website. I work on my resume, my reel. this sounds like an actor, right? We do the same things. I have to pitch myself for the job, quote for the part, audition for the part, go on the Zooms. So those are all great sort of housekeeping things to do in your downtime. But,
Yeah.
you know, social media wise, we do check out what you're up to when asked. And then sometimes I'm just curious in my downtime, scrolling on my phone. I'm like, oh, what's so-and-so up to? You know, just if I wanted to learn a little bit more about you, because we live in an industry and a time now where there aren't as many live casting sessions. I don't get the chance to bond with you in person. So seeing your clips on Instagram, or it helps me learn a little bit more about you and just a gist of your personality and who you are. And I like that. So yeah, make your accounts public, but make sure it's your actor account.
Gabe, I want to touch on something you said briefly and just call it out in terms of when you said if you don't have like a source of support, you know, or like a maybe you meant maybe like a mentor on set or somebody you can ask questions about. It's also important to build up that community support, finding people who are maybe they're inside the industry or not that you can lean on when times are tough or lean, but you have just your network, your friends, your family, and spending time with them, you know, to kind of recharge and in that way. Another question here that I think is tied in a bit to social media now. It could make these more prevalent, but they've always been there in some capacity. Any advice on how to spot scams? I've been in the office for 1 year, just over a year, and I've already seen one of those, a casting scam. So I wonder if maybe a couple red flags where you're like, no, immediately we know this is not good.
If they are paying you more than you're looking at this figure and saying, oh my God, look at this. Chances are you need to look into it, ask people. Not only is the page where you can post stuff and list stuff, projects or, positions. If you want to ask that question, say, hey, post that letter and say, hey, do y'all think this is a scam? Once again, relying on the resources that you have. Now, granted, I don't see the casting scams, but I do see the crew scams because I get those letters, all the time. And I'll be honest with you, anytime somebody reaches out to me that I've not worked with, I go in saying this may not be real, and it's not real until I prove that it's real. I think it may sound like a negative way to look at things, but it's a good way to approach it. That way you're not going to get burned. And it's like my father has said from the pulpit many times, if you expect the worst, then you're going to be pleasantly surprised if something else happens. And that's how I look at each one.
Healthy skepticism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that you shouldn't have to pay to audition. So be very careful. If there's a fee to audition, a fee to submit for a project, that should be a very big red flag. For me as a casting company, I post all my jobs on my social media, my company's social media, and on the designated Facebook pages for which I'm a member. Other than that, if you see a post for my company on this page or that page, they have lifted it without my permission. And it often happens days or weeks later when I've already booked the role. And then all of a sudden, my movie started and a week and a half later, all these submissions are rolling in, which is unfair to the actors. So, for my jobs, if you're finding them on other sites versus, the core pages that I use, Mississippi Actors and Extras, Gabe's page, on the Film Office page, if it's not on something official like that, proceed with caution. And I had an actor say, I saw one of your casting calls and there was a fee for it. I had to sign up. And I'm like, where did you see that? I won't mention the name. And it was a company that's, nationwide casting calls that will charge actors for the opportunity to suggest on my job, which breaks my heart. So, just be very careful and make sure that when you're seeing work from casting directors, that it's from their direct sites or official, breakdown services, Actors Access, or the state sort of film pages,
we're kind of approaching the end of time here. I wonder if, Matthew, you said something at the top of the conversation about, you work all over the place, and you're, in Toronto and here in Mississippi, but you talked about having some of the best experiences here in Mississippi. I wonder for both of you, if you could share one of those, like something that sticks out in your memory, for either it's you saw something, just maybe a great story in the work that you've done, or you've seen somebody who's really surprised you, or you saw somebody like, oh, that person gets it, that kind of thing. I mean, if not, that's fine too. Just curious. I see you laughing, Gabe. You got something. I feel like something popped there for you.
It was a great experience. We were filming The Card Counter down on the coast back in 21, and it was just one of those instances. When I'm on a set, I generally don't. I'm not going to bug the cast, but I am going to go up and introduce myself. Say, if you need anything, let me know. But this particular day, we were filming at a casino in Biloxi, and Oscar Isaac, who was the lead in the film, who's also known for his roles in Star Wars, he was on the elevator along with myself and his assistant and a PA. And it's a public elevator, so it stops, and we're all going up, and they're getting on. We can't tell them no, take another elevator. And so we're just going up. We're going up 20 floors, and say, y'all here with the movie? I said, yes. Yeah, we're here with the movie. He goes, yeah, I heard that Oscar Isaac here in the movie. Man, I love Star Wars. I would love to be able to meet him sometime. And I said, you know what? I've not had much interaction with him. I'll let you know. I think he's an absolute dream, but maybe you'll catch a glimpse of him later. And he goes, man, I would really like that. Maybe I can get a picture with him sometime. I said, well, you never know what's going to happen. And then they came to their floor and they walked out, and the doors closed, and we just all looked at each other. And I looked at him, and I just said, I guess he's not that big of a fan of Star Wars, is he? And we just walked out of the elevator still laughing 10 floors later. It's the small little stories from set that make you want to keep coming back, because no matter the bad that happens or the negative day that you might happen, you remember those little stories, and you remember why you love the job, because you're not going to get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
I have a pretty incredible film experience. My best memory, I've been working in Toronto for about 15 years, and I really wanted to move back to Mississippi and do films. And, it's not like the work just falls in your lap. And to do a feature film, you really have to have a lot of film work on your resume. So how do you get started when you have no film work? And I remember believing in myself, and I had been casting tons of commercials, tons of print, tons of music videos, and I knew I was talented, but a door would never open for me. And I just kept praying, please God, open a door for me. How are you going to get my first film? And my mom called me when I was in Toronto. She lives in Canton, Mississippi. She said, James Franco and his producers were scouting in Canton, and they came by and looked at her house as a location. And she gave the producer my card, and she said, my son is a casting director, and he's from Mississippi, and he's very talented. The producer was from France, and she said, and he speaks French. And so she said, you better call him. And I think, she may have blown her off or not taken her seriously. And a week goes by, and my mom sees the producer again, and she said, you never called my son. And so I'm in Toronto on a streetcar, and the phone rings. It's somebody from Brooklyn, New York. We had a great conversation, and she said, listen, I really like you. I'm going to take a chance on you. How fast can you get to Mississippi? I said, give me 30 minutes. And I called Delta, and I booked a flight down, and I met her the next day and started working on the movie. So the moral of that story is, if you love what you do, if it's meant to be, don't give up. Have faith. I was sort of in the right time at the right place. This producer who did that film took a chance on me. It was my very first film. I think I did a great job, knocked it out of the park. I trusted my instincts. I had somebody who believed in me. I just needed to get my foot in the door. And that first film went to the Cannes Film Festival. I got to go to France. I walked the red carpet. I thought they were all like this. Little did I know, right?
Yeah, right.
I had been spoiled at the very beginning, but that for me was my favorite experience. I loved casting As I Lay Dying, directed by James Franco, written by William Faulkner, a Mississippian in my hometown of Mississippi. And I will give my mother full credit for getting my foot in the door with her persuasive, Southern, charming ways, because it really opened a door for me. And then all of the people who didn't pay me any attention, that really didn't, take me seriously, all of a sudden started calling me. The door opened. And so actors, I know exactly how you feel because I went through the same thing as a casting director. You just need that one person to take a chance on you, to give you a shot, to open the door. So I know how good that feels, and I love it when I can do that for you. It's very rewarding for me. And that's the reason I love my job is, the sort of fulfillment that I get for helping you realize your dreams, just to say it like it is. That's my favorite story that I wanted to share with you very honestly.
That's great. Thanks for
That's
that.
how I got my break.
Yeah. Any last thoughts that we haven't touched on, question I haven't asked, idea you want to share, anything as we wrap here?
If you have a question, use the page, and somebody's going to answer it for you. You never know. Matthew or an agent may see your question, or you have somebody who's experienced, another actor, will say, "Hey, have you tried this, or have you tried this, or why don't you send me a message and let's talk about it further." This industry world, or as my girlfriend likes to say, the world of make believe that we live in, is an incredible world, incredible people in it, and sure, just like in every line of work, there are some people who don't want to see you succeed because they think if you're succeeding, you're taking away something from them.
Yeah.
But the majority of the people, all they want to do is help you further your career and not make the mistakes that they made. So, once again, use the resources that you have, and we're going to do our best to help you get along.
Great.
Sort of maybe some final tips that I could share as actors, treat others like you want to be treated. I think that's true in life in general. You never know where that PA is going to be your director. That actually happened to me.
Mhm.
And believe in yourself. You've got to believe you're perfect for the part, or how the heck you're going to convince me. I love confidence. I feed off of it. I can tell it in your tape, when we engage in a live Zoom, in the way you write to me. I love confident people who make confident decisions and who sell it. You've got to sell yourself. And, I say always audition. If you're a good fit for the part, go for it, give it a shot. You're going to learn something. With every audition, it gets a little bit easier. You get a little bit better. You learn from your mistakes. I certainly have over the years, and just keep doing it as long as you absolutely love it and feel fulfilled. Those are my kind of general tips.
Yeah. Matthew, Gabe, thanks guys so much for sharing your time with us.
You're welcome.
I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Zoom today, and we look forward to sharing this recording soon for folks that weren't able to join. But again, really appreciative of the work that you do, the way you represent Mississippi, and help grow our industry. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Carrie, can we close this?